Hi everyone, I'm Imogen from Course Report, and we are a resource for researching which coding bootcamp is right for you. We have a directory of different coding schools, a blog, and interviews with founders, instructors, and students, all to help you work out which bootcamp you want to go to. I'm speaking with two graduates from Thinkful's full-time bootcamp, Connie and Kyle, who are going to tell me about their final project. Thinkful is a fully remote online coding bootcamp, and students take part from all over the country. Welcome, Connie and Kyle. Thanks so much for joining me today, and congratulations to you both on graduating from Thinkful.
Thank you.
Thanks, good to be here.
So maybe you guys can start by both introducing yourselves and telling me about your education and career backgrounds before you decided to go to Thinkful. Maybe Connie, you can
Sure,
start.
yeah, I can start. So I graduated with an environmental science degree. The work that I found wasn't super satisfying. A lot of it was for profit and not really in line with what I learned in college. Somehow I ended up kind of in the mortgage industry, and I found that the technology in the mortgage industry is very, I guess, not there, I guess is one way to put it. It's pretty low tech, and I found myself getting really interested in learning more about the technological side of things. And so doing some research, that's kind of how I ended up, wanting to learn how to code, and eventually I found Thinkful.
Awesome, cool. And what about you, Kyle?
I graduated from Cal State LA with a degree in business and accounting, and I worked at a larger CPA firm for about 2 years, and the work is pretty challenging. I really liked that it was changing all the time and it was project based, but for the amount of hours that I was working, I just wasn't that interested in accounting and wanted to be building stuff. And while I was in college, I coded all the time from Code Academy, and I was really interested in it, but I was living in LA and there weren't very many boot camp options in LA at the time. So.
Cool. Oh, it sounds like you guys both have really interesting backgrounds. I was wondering where you guys both are right now. Where are you living?
I'm in San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm in San Francisco Bay Area too.
Oh, you're both there. Cool. That's awesome. So had either of you kind of tried to learn to code by yourselves before, or studied it at all before you decided to do Thinkful?
Yeah, I spent a little time on Code Academy, but it was kind of hard to stay motivated. I also tried, learning Python actually from a few books, but I just kind of felt that a boot camp was kind of the right choice to learn everything I need with, with actual guidance from people. And so that's kind of what happened.
And what about you, Kyle? Did you have some experience at all?
Yeah, I coded with the Code Academy, Udacity, just a bunch of free resources I could find, and I'd get really into it, and then I wouldn't have the structure, and I would kind of give up for a while, and then I'd get back into it and give up. And so I was really just looking for some structure and some in between the line guidance from some experienced instructors.
That makes sense. And since you guys are both in San Francisco, did you guys at all consider doing in-person full-time boot camps rather than an online boot camp like Thinkful?
Yeah, one of the other boot camps I was considering was Hack Bright, the all women's boot camp. And so I thought that was really interesting. I attended one of their informational sessions, which was really helpful. They had some alumni talk as well as instructors. So that was the other one I was considering, but their boot camp wasn't starting around the time I was looking. I think it was like maybe a month or two before their next cohort would start. And I saw Thinkful, and I reached out kind of, to see I was initially considering their part-time program because I wasn't sure if I wanted to dedicate, quit my job and dedicate, all my time to it. And so I had reached out, and Bomik then reached out to me about how they were starting a full-time program, and I just kind of went with it.
Cool. And what about you, Kyle? Did you consider some in-person boot camps at all?
Yeah, I did. I was looking at a bunch of them, and what initially made me go with Thinkful was their part-time program before they had a full-time program. Just because it was easy to make payments per month, the payment options were great, and it was just easier to not commute to San Francisco, and it was flexible. And then when they started their full-time program, they offered me a good opportunity with that at a discounted price. So it was the best option for me. And they had already treated me well in the part-time program, so I decided to go with them.
Cool. That's awesome. That's so cool. You guys both found something to really suit your needs. Very cool. And were you worried at all that studying online, you wouldn't, it wouldn't be kind of as immersive and you wouldn't be able to focus as much as having, actual people sitting next to you? Was that a worry for either of you?
I had some reservations. I didn't even get a chance to try out the part-time program before, going into the full-time program. So I had a few reservations. I'd actually never taken an online course, not even in college. But one thing that was really hard to get used to was the fact that we started, 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So that was one of my biggest concerns. I was hoping to eventually adjust to it, which I sort of did, but it was not ideal, I think. Yeah.
And did you have similar reservations or concerns, Kyle?
I knew that it was going to be structured well, so I wasn't too concerned with it. I was concerned with, I guess not getting as much attention as you would in a brick and mortar school, but that was definitely not the case at all. Probably got more attention than I would at a brick and mortar school. And yeah, waking up at 5 a.m. every morning was probably the hardest part, and I never got used to it. But it was definitely worth it. I got all the attention I needed. It was really immersive. You're constantly working with somebody, so it was really engaging.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, well done, you guys, for that dedication of getting up so early. I don't know if I could handle that. And did you guys have any kind of methods for helping yourselves kind of get in the zone? Like, did you have kind of a little workstation set up that you'd go to each day? Like, how did you kind of get yourself in the zone for being in the boot camp?
I didn't have I had a desk, but beyond that, it's just kind of make sure I wake up on time, get a little water and food, and just kind of make sure I was awake, and that was pretty much it.
And Kyle, what about you?
Yeah, I had to leave my house to go somewhere else to study because I have a bunch of crazy roommates that are loud all the time. And so I would go to my house owner's private office to work, and that was kind of a good compromise, like a separation of living and where I would do my Thinkful work. So it gave me a little bit of a feel of not just being online from my bedroom,
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to have somewhere else to go. That's very cool. And yeah, I was wondering if one or both of you could tell me about a kind of a typical day and the sort of learning style of Thinkful?
Well, a typical day would be, we'd start off kind of do a little bit of reflecting on, the previous day or the previous week, just kind of go over if anyone had any residual questions about concepts that we had covered. And after that, one of our instructors would kind of go into a lecture with a bit of a PowerPoint and go over some coding examples to go along with the concepts. Sometimes there would be a bit of a code along to just kind of cement the concepts into our brains. After that, we would do some pair programming. The pairs were predetermined, the day before, and we'd do some pair programming, take a break, regroup with the entire class, kind of discuss what we've been working on, what we've been stuck on, go over some concepts that maybe everyone didn't, 100% understand during the morning session. And then for the rest of the day, we would just pair programming. And of course, during each pairing session, we'd have a TA coming around answering questions, making sure that we were doing everything correctly.
Cool, awesome. That sounds good. Yeah, thanks for that, Connie. And Kyle, I was wondering maybe if you could explain how you guys were able to interact remotely with your instructor and other students.
Yeah, so during the morning when there would be more of like a lecture type scenario, we'd be in Thinkful's OWL room, which is their video conference room. So we'd all be there and we'd see each other, video chat, and they could share screen to show us concepts. And when we were pairing together, we used Screen Hero so that you can actually share a desktop and you can actually use a separate cursor on the other person's screen and even type into like their editor. It's kind of creepy. But yeah, it worked really well.
Cool, that sounds really awesome. Cool, all right, well, before we start the screen share, I wondered if you could tell me a bit about how you guys came up with the idea of building your final project.
Kyle, I think you should take this one.
Yeah, we just knew we wanted to make a video game because we weren't able to play video games for months during our curriculum because we were too busy. So we decided to make kind of like a gauntlet type dungeon crawler game, and somewhere along the way we just deviated from that and decided to make a game about just some pissed off raccoon that's like trying to kill farmers, and we named him Gerald. So yeah, I don't know, we just really wanted to we just really wanted to make just a random dungeon crawler 2D canvas game.
Yeah. So let me share my screen.
Okay.
Great. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So this is our game. Well, the start screen of our game. Some of the technologies we used were JavaScript and HTML5 canvas, which was completely new to all of us. Here you have your mob. And so the premise is really simple. You're using your WASD keys and spacebar to, move around and shoot. I don't quite remember how many levels there are, but I think it's at least 5. And we have, a constant stream. Our treasure chests consist of garbage cans. And so, you collect them, you kind of destroy the mobs, and, so on and so forth. And I'll show you our death screen, which is "You're dead, sucker. Do you want to play again?" And so this is our game. We spent about 3 weeks on it. I'm not going to lie, it was initially an incredibly frustrating process. I think we went in not quite realizing how difficult creating a game is when you don't have any game developing knowledge. One of the difficult things that we encountered was really figuring out the algorithm for the mob, because you need a way for the mob to kind of be able to track where you are and follow you and, attack you. And so that was definitely, I think, one of the most difficult things that we encountered.
Cool. And how did you come up with the actual game design for like the characters and the graphics in general?
Right. So the graphics, like the background, the tile, this was pulled. These are sprites pulled from the actual Gauntlet game. So a lot of people have like these little individual tiles readily available that you can use, and you can kind of use a series of numbers to determine, like, do you want to use like a straight piece or this corner piece or this corner piece? But for the characters, it was just kind of looking for sprites that were available. I mean, to be honest with you, I just kind of came across a Kirby game and they had some sprites available. And so I was like, I just suggested to Kyle and Simon, our other teammate, and I was like, oh, how do you guys feel about having a raccoon? And everyone was like, sure. And so everything was just kind of random and on a whim, and somehow it all came together, I guess.
Cool. Oh, it looks awesome. I did have a play around with it the other day, but I didn't realize that the rubbish bins were treasure. I saw them there, but I thought, oh, they're just kind of, I don't know, decor. Right. I don't know. So is it kind of like they're in an alleyway or something, and the farmers are trying to kill the raccoon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. And you were mentioning that you had to use quite a few technologies that were new to you. I was wondering how you were able to, learn those so quickly in order to build this project in that short time frame.
I think we basically needed to search out resources online, and there's just so many bad resources in general for like any technology, and especially when it comes to making games with HTML5 canvas. And so it was really frustrating. For like 3 solid days we were trying to get some kind of tutorial that would get us close to making this game, and we couldn't find one. And I knew that we just needed one unified basic starting point, and like somewhere around day 3 we found one. You basically have to like connect the dots of what you learn from each individual tutorial and start building off of that.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you have something you wanted to add, Connie?
No.
Okay. I was going to ask if what was kind of the biggest challenge or problem you had while building this, and how did you overcome that?
I would say that the biggest challenge really was starting. This is not covered by, in our full-time course. Game development is not covered at all. And so, because we wanted to try something new, something that we hadn't done before, the biggest challenge, honestly, was starting, and as Kyle said, was finding the correct resources that would actually be helpful. And so, one big piece of advice that we got was to, kind of pull a template from an online resource instead of trying to build something from scratch. Pull a really basic template and then refactor the code, in a way that, made it useful to us. And so, having a template and, as Kyle said, finding a really good tutorial really, I think, made everything click eventually.
Cool, that's awesome. And what are your future plans now for Gerald the Raccoon? Are you going to keep working on it or adding more features or anything like that?
I think one future goal, I don't think either of us really have time right now, but one future goal is to kind of make it suitable for smaller screens. Like screen responsiveness would be a really interesting challenge to tackle in the future.
Yeah, I think it looks like the kind of game that would be really fun to play on mobile, definitely.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's like got that simplicity that you need for a mobile game. That's really cool. That's awesome. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I wanted to also ask you about when you were working on the game, how did you kind of collaborate on that remotely? Like, how were you able to kind of, tweak it and work on it together when you weren't in the same room?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Okay. We just frequently did conference calls and shared screen, and we talked on Slack all the time, and we used Screen Hero. We just constantly kept each other updated, and we use GitHub, of course, to collaborate. So
cool. Awesome. I'll link to it if it's all right, I'll link to it in the article so that people can watch it. Yeah, so thank you very much for showing that to me. It looks really fun. So yeah, congratulations.
Thanks.
Cool, awesome. So just a few more questions now before we finish up. I was wondering, when did you guys actually graduate from Thinkful?
I think it was the first week of August.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I was wondering what you guys are both doing now. Are you looking for jobs, or if you found something to work on, or are you working on projects?
It's a combination of looking for jobs, kind of refining skills, maybe like learning new skills. In Thinkful, we focus on React as opposed to Angular, so I'm taking time to learn Angular. Kyle and I just recently concluded an internship, and so now we're back on the job market.
Oh, cool. What was the internship?
It was like a 2-week internship, kind of just to get a taste of like what freelancing would be like. And so we were working at a really small digital agency, just kind of helping build out one of the apps, and learning about different technologies. Like in Thinkful, we use GitHub, but we learned a bit about Bitbucket, and we were assigned tickets via Jira. So it was just kind of a really brief internship to kind of get a taste of like what, I guess, real life coding is, as opposed to being a student.
That's awesome. And so were you guys both doing, was that an in-person internship that you guys were doing?
No, it was online.
Okay, yeah. Cool. And then before you graduated from Thinkful, what sort of like career support or advice were they able to give you?
It's a lot of advice, actually. And I think one of the best things about Thinkful is, the career services. It's ongoing. Like, not only are you going to get advice on like, how you should polish your resume, your portfolio, and, your LinkedIn, among other things, during the course, but, they're also, giving you advice on how to approach your interviews, how to go about a phone screen, on how you can get practice with a whiteboarding interview, data structures, algorithms. And so it's really everything that career services is really helpful in pretty much every way, I think, in our job search.
Cool. And were they able to help you with any kind of networking in your area or anything like that?
Yeah, there was definitely. It's really helpful. They know recruiters, more so in the New York City area because that's where they're based, than in the Bay Area. But they know recruiters here and there, and as well as engineers kind of distributed around the country. I guess kind of a Thinkful network, and so they'll help us do the outreach and help us connect. So yeah.
Awesome. And Kyle, how useful did you find that career help from Thinkful?
It's been really helpful, especially the mock interviews. We're allowed to take as many mock interviews as we need to really get practice whiteboarding and answering tough technical questions, as well as just common presentation and like confidence. I felt that part was really good. Their advice on how to approach the job market is really good and helpful. And we get constant guidance afterward. Like we have stand-ups every morning, and we have meetings like twice a week with our career advisors. So it's helped a lot.
Oh wow, are those meetings still ongoing now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. So they're going to keep helping you until you are kind of feeling that you found the sort of role you want, do you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. And you guys looking for any specific types of roles?
For me, ideally, I am looking for front-end roles. I feel that's just kind of what I'm going for at the moment.
Yeah, same
Awesome.
with me.
Oh, cool. Nice. Do you think that's like, are most of your peers from Thinkful looking for front-end work, or is there a big range that you've come across?
I think for the most part, as far as I know, everyone's looking for front-end work.
Oh, interesting. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. All right. We're almost at the end now. But before we go, I wanted to find out what sort of advice you guys have for people who are thinking about changing their careers and doing an online coding bootcamp like Thinkful. Kyle, maybe you can go first for this one.
Some advice for if they're preparing for it?
Well, just like if they're thinking about doing one and wondering, like, should they take an online coding bootcamp? Is that, how do they work out if it's going to be right for them?
Right. I think they should definitely spend some time coding, learning from online resources, trying to set themselves to a structured schedule, and seeing how that goes for them, seeing if they are comprehending from an online perspective. But they should know that with Thinkful, it feels like a brick and mortar school that's online. It's not really like learn on your own pace type scenarios. So I'd say as long as you can make sure that you have a really good quiet area to do your work from, that's really all you'd need.
Awesome. And do you have some advice as well, Connie?
Yeah, if you're considering, Thinkful or any bootcamp, really online or brick and mortar, I would definitely recommend for a bit, just kind of, learn your HTML, learn your CSS, your JavaScript, or, depending on what school you want to go to, just kind of familiarize yourself with the really basic concepts, because, it will definitely help you, excuse me, during your first week, your second week, and, just having that little bit of background knowledge, I think, is definitely useful.
Awesome. Cool. Oh, thanks very much for that advice. That's awesome. And just before we go, is there anything else either of you would like to add about your experience at Thinkful?
No, I think I've pretty much covered it. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll add something. I just felt like they were constantly making sure that they were doing their best to serve our needs. Like they were really adaptable, and they really are committed to wanting to make it a program that gets results, really turns you into an engineer that can go out and learn on your own and get a job. I think a lot of programs can be kind of stagnant and structured and malleable, and Thinkful just did a lot to make sure that we were doing okay.
Awesome. Cool. Oh, I'm so glad you guys both had such good experiences. Congratulations again on graduating. And all the best to you both for finding awesome jobs. I'm sure you both will find really cool jobs really soon. So good luck.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
for
a lot.
having us.
Thank you for being here.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.